Good morning and welcome to the Pikes Peak Workforce Center's State of the Workforce. I am humbled and honored to have everyone here. It's like a family reunion in types and being able to network with people. So I really want to thank everyone for getting up early this morning and coming to our State of the Workforce. I would like to ask you now to please rise for the singing of the National Anthem, performed by Sergeant Kayla Winslow from the Fort Carson's 4th Infantry Division Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Sergeant Winslow. And thank you for attending today's event. I am Tracy Marquis, Executive Director and CEO of the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. I would first like to say thank you to our sponsors, El Paso and Teller Counties, the Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado, the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center, and UCCS Economic Forum. I would also like to acknowledge the Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board members. Can you please stand to be recognized? And we could not do what we do here at Pikes Peak Workforce Center without our wonderful staff. They have a servant's heart, and I am humbled and honored to be able to lead this organization and lead them to be able to do all the great work that we're going to be talking about today. So I'd like to take a moment and have staff rise to be acknowledged, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. The Pikes Peak Workforce Center is an integral part of the talent development in our community. We are very fortunate to have the support of elected officials, and I'd like to take a moment now to recognize them and acknowledge them. Can you please hold your applause until the very end? Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers, Colorado Springs Chief of Staff Jeff Green, El Paso County Commissioner Stan Vanderwerf, Commissioner Lojinas Gonzalez, Commissioner Cami Brimmer, Commissioner Holly Williams, El Paso County Deputy Administrator Nicola Sapp. From Teller County, we're honored to have Teller County Commissioner Norm Steen and Teller County Commissioner Bob Campbell. From the City Council, we have City Council members Dave Geislinger, Tom Strand, and Yolanda Avila. And representing Senator Bennett's office, Annie Oakman Gardner. Thank you very much for attending. Economic growth is a key to the success of our region. The ability to attract new businesses, retain and attract talent, and grow our economy is not done by one entity. It takes community leaders in our region to be open to conversations and collaborations. I am honored to introduce one of those leaders. Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers was elected the 41st mayor of Colorado Springs by an overwhelming majority in 2015. Southers brings decades of experience in government and management to the city of Colorado Springs. Before being elected mayor, Southers served as Attorney General of Colorado from 2005 to 2015. Under Southers' leadership, the Colorado Attorney General's office earned national reputation for excellence. One of Mayor Southers' top 3 priorities is promoting new job creation, helping companies already located here to expand, and attract new companies to Colorado Springs. And he has done just that and so much more. A lifelong resident of Colorado Springs, Southers attended grade school and graduated from St. Mary's High School. He graduated magna cum laude from the University of Notre Dame, and it was in the top of his law class at the University of Colorado. So can you please join me in welcoming Mayor John Southers?
Thank you, Tracy, and good morning, everyone. It's really good to be here this morning for the state of the workforce. And I'd like to begin by saying some nice things about Tracy. For those of you that don't know, Tracy was named the 2018 Woman of Influence by the Colorado Springs Business Journal and is currently one of 3 nominees for the 2019 Gary Bostrom Community Inspiration Award by Leadership Pikes Peak for work with the Pikes Peak workforce. I also noticed in the paper this morning that she's been appointed by the governor to the Colorado Workforce Development Council. We really are very fortunate to have Tracy in Colorado Springs and leading the way at the Workforce Center. So thanks so much. The Pikes Peak Workforce Center is an invaluable asset in our community. The work they do changes the lives of job seekers by providing training and employment opportunities, and their services provide great value to our region's employers. Workforce development is a key component of our region's economic development and vitality. As many of you know, Colorado Springs was just recently ranked the 5th best city in America to find a job by WalletHub and was the top ranked of 180 cities in employment growth. The Pikes Peak region has emerged as one of the best economies in the country. Profit and nonprofit organizations are moving here and expanding here. We've averaged 7,500 new jobs per year since 2015, and wages have climbed significantly during that same time. The average median salary for posted jobs in Colorado Springs right now exceeds $80,000, well above Colorado's median salary of $74,325. Registered nurses, software engineers, system engineers, and cybersecurity personnel are among the most needed positions. As we are enjoying robust economic growth and attracting more businesses to our community, effective workforce development must continue to be a very high priority. We need to have a trained and ready workforce to fill those jobs. Achieving that will require community collaboration. It's critical for education, businesses, and other workforce organizations to work together to attract and retain talent, which is necessary to fulfill today's needs as well as our future labor needs. In 2018, the Pikes Peak Workforce Center served more than 2,200 employers and assisted over 32,000 job seekers. They also spent more than $1.5 million in training, educating, and reintegrating our talent, our local talent, along with one-on-one job and career coaching. In this climate, with the unemployment rate so low, the Workforce Center remains a valuable resource for employers and businesses in the community for finding the workforce talent they need. Thank you to Tracy and everyone at the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. Thanks to the counties for their support of the center and all of the community partners and educational institutions that are working together towards this important mission. Please keep up the good work.
The mission of Pikes Peak Workforce Center is to connect work-ready job seekers with employer-driven services. But what does that really mean? We help businesses find the talent they need and job seekers find the jobs and careers they want. During the majority of 2018, there were more open positions than jobs. We had record-setting unemployment numbers. Yet people still struggled and businesses could not find the talent they need. I look at workforce as a wheel. and the Pikes Peak Workforce Center is just one spoke of that wheel. It takes a community coming together to connect, convene, and collaborate to move the needle on developing the talent that we need. We are just one touch businesses and job seekers have in our community. It is truly a community collaboration. Businesses and job seekers don't see borders nor county lines. Likewise, we're working to remove barriers to develop talent. We need to surround them with resources. Some resources may be funds for training. Others may be dollars for rent or car insurance. It doesn't matter where you come from or what degree or rank you have. We are here because you need us. We know that Pikes Peak Workforce Center isn't the only answer. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I say it takes a community to help people reach their true career potential. Last year, the Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board approved a subcommittee called the Workforce Action Team because the community said they wanted it. The team of community doers and community champions was designed around the Colorado Workforce Development Council's talent pipeline. The mission is to organize our region's assets to cultivate the future of work. It focuses on strategic doing, short wins in a short amount of time, continuing the momentum. The key focus areas are education, workforce systems, and industry. This spring, our education team will be piloting a speed round of career sessions at Woodland Park High School to expose juniors and seniors to different careers in short 10-minute increments. Career pathways led by industry. Another win for the Workforce Action Team is to be able to spread the word on WHAM. And my hope is that everyone in this room knows what WHAM is, right? Anyone? Don't? All right. In case you don't, WHAM is a workforce asset map. It is a map that convenes community resources to one website.
Workforce is an incredibly important aspect of economic development, if not the most important aspect of economic development. And I realized that there was already a lot of momentum here in town, so there was a group of us, actually a group of women, that came together and we called ourselves the Workforce Dream Team. We basically decided that there are a lot of great resources in the community. However, they're a bit disparate. They're all over the place. Not everyone knows about all these resources. So we decided that perhaps a one-stop shop could house all of the workforce-related resources of Colorado Springs.
The Workforce Asset Map, otherwise known as WHAM, is a great community resource and collaboration. It's with the UCCS Economic Forum, the Pikes Peak Workforce Center, and many other community partners. It's a one-stop online access for job seekers, students, and businesses.
WHAM is a superhero-themed website that is easy for students, job seekers, and employers to navigate. It's a one-stop free online tool that helps people easily access the workforce-related resources within Colorado Springs. Here's how it works. If you're a local employer, you can find resources to help you post or hire for a position, develop an internship, apprenticeship, or in-house employee training program. And the Pikes Peak Workforce Center would likely be your first stop. Employers can also learn about labor supply, which is the number of local graduates by occupational group. The I next to each occupational group tells how many local openings there are for specific job categories. Or if an employer wants to be more connected in the community, they can find a variety of organizations to explore. Remember, on WHAM, the American flag shows you programs and services specific to veterans and their spouses and family members.
I would like to say thank you to Tatiana Bailey and UCCS Economic Forum for allowing the Pikes Peak Workforce Center to join in this wonderful community opportunity.
You will start to see this video and others as a result of the Workforce Action Team strategy to help spread the word on WHAM. WHAM ambassadors are being created. I know, right? You have to have it. WHAM ambassadors are assisting in answering the Workforce Action Team strategic question: how do we communicate, educate, drive, and sustain connected, collaborative workforce systems through the Workforce Asset Map? If you are part of the Workforce Action Team, please stand and be recognized. Please see one of these community doers if you would like to be part of this exciting community collaboration. In 2018, the Pikes Peak Workforce Center assisted almost 14,000 people in finding jobs, with an average wage of over $41,000 per year. That is, on average, over $7,000 more than someone who did not use our services. We pride ourselves on being able to bring value to our clients and an impressive rate of return on our investment in grant funding. More than ever, the Pikes Peak Workforce Center realizes we have to help businesses find the talent they need to thrive and grow. Last year, we worked with over 2,200 employers through helping them find talent. Through our hiring events and job fairs, employers hired over 4,400 people. Our customized hiring events help companies and recruiters save time and resources by being able to meet applicants in one location, oftentimes interviewing 500 to 200 people within 3 hours. All this was done at no cost for them, and we did the marketing and outreach for them. Knowing we have to help businesses thrive to grow our economy, we focused federal dollars last year on businesses to upskill their existing workforce. We know in our region there's a skills gap. We ask ourselves, how do we help businesses find the talent they need and at the same time help job seekers with barriers to employment find jobs and careers? Our philosophy was to help businesses fill their jobs by training and upskilling their existing employees and their workforce. This allows us to come in and assist in backfilling those entry-level jobs.
Incumbent worker training is what we like to call our employee development grants. We are able to use some funding from the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment to award grants to employers to help upskill their employees.
We try to garner our workforce as much as we can from disadvantaged individuals, homeless, people that are in shelters, so that we can try to give them a hand up as opposed to a handout.
Since there hasn't been as big of a push into the CTE trades coming out of high school, we have a shortage of construction workers, skilled labor workers, so we're trying to train those individuals so that we can make sure we have skilled personnel putting in our product.
Last year we awarded $200,000 to 13 different employers that helped upskill 153 employees.
State of Colorado, you have to have licensed electricians to apprentices, and I was needing to put some more apprentices on, but I needed some of my guys that were unlicensed, that had the experience but not the license, the extra training to get their licenses. And so I decided to apply and see if I could help with that.
It's been fantastic. We've been able to use those training dollars to enhance the training our employees have received both in our traditional manufacturing process, and then also we were able to utilize the grant funds to purchase a new piece of equipment, which is a laser etching machine.
The guys that already have licenses got continuing education classes.
We have a shortage of construction trade workers, and so this allows us to train individuals so that we can move them into that next role.
And we were very successful. A guy that's worked for us 15 years that was still an apprentice, I put him through the program. He was able to get a Colorado journeyman's license.
We've been able to train our employees in order to really get them from where they started out with a skill set of being able to wash incoming bottles and prep them for the assembly line. Now they can do any job within the facility, as well as we've started getting them some graphic design skills on the computer and teaching them how to interface in the etching business utilizing the equipment. We've really been able to help them grow a skill set that they can either continue to move up within our company, or once they outgrow us with their skill set, they've got something that's transferable that can help them continue to go along that path we tried to help set them on at the beginning.
It was great. The Pikes Peak workforce was very, very helpful.
I think the best part for us about this entire experience has been able to see the benefit that our employees receive.
As we help businesses find the talent pipeline that they need, we also know we need to start focusing on our future talent. As a region, we need to start focusing on the skills needed for the jobs, not necessarily the degrees. And we need to ask ourselves, as job seekers, what transferable skills do we have? How can I relate my skills to workforce development? What is the future of workforce development? Not only am I asking that question of my organization, You should ask that question too. To help enlighten us and hopefully help us start thinking of the future workforce is our great friend, Josh Davies. Josh is passionate about helping others make a difference in their lives, jobs, and community. Through his work as a speaker and trainer, he has engaged and encouraged professionals across North America, Asia, and the Middle East. Josh is the CEO of the Center of Work Ethic Development, an organization committed to developing workplace skills in the global workforce. He has been appointed by the governor to serve a second term on the Colorado Workforce Development Council and to chair the State Education and Training Steering Committee. Welcome, Josh.
Awesome. Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, good morning, everyone. It is truly a joy for me to be here this morning, not just because I love Colorado Springs, but I live in Denver and I didn't have to get on a plane yesterday. So I was super excited about getting to spend another night in Colorado. It is truly a blessing to be here as part of the Pikes Peak Workforce State of the Workforce meeting. Like I said, I get a chance to travel all over and speak with different groups and different organizations. And one of the things I love to do, I love to find funny things, because there's a lot of funny things in this world, and take pictures of them and then share them with people. This is a sign I saw the other day I thought was particularly awesome. The level of creativity this person had was pretty amazing. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, man, this guy's angry. There's a lot of things that are angry. And so I started to try and figure out why people are so angry lately. What is it that's happening? What's going on? And so I started to do some research around hate and some different things. And I really didn't find a whole lot, but I did find one thing that was really awesome. I don't know if anybody of you out here is single or uses any dating websites. But I'm married, but I want to let you know, I found the coolest dating website I've seen in a long time. It's called Hater Dater. This is a real thing, okay? And what it does, like the Match.coms, they try and, get the perfect people together. Hater Dater's premise is that you will find a connection with somebody if you hate the same things they do. And so it matches people who hate the same things. I don't know if it works or not, but what's great about it, big data, they were then able to put together a list of what each state hates the most. And I thought this was very intriguing. I looked around the states and saw some different things. Frankly, I'm not really sure what NSYNC ever did to Colorado, but apparently some sort of long-standing beef there. Other ones that I think are very interesting if you can't see it there. What do they hate most in Arizona? Sand. My advice, move, okay? Because there's a lot of sand there. It also shows you a little bit of the psyche of different places. In Louisiana, what do they hate most? Being the designated driver. I think that tells you a lot about the culture of Louisiana. For me then, I started thinking, what is it that I hate? What is it that is driving me crazy? And I'll tell you what's driving me crazy. As I travel around the country and talk with workforce development professionals and employers, I see all these people who are out here doing training. We're helping to get people jobs. And so often, we're training people for jobs that we know are going to go away. I was talking with the director of labor from the state of Kentucky, and she described it this way. It's like we're simply rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. We're spending millions of dollars training people for jobs. And in 5, 7, 10 years, they're going to come right back through our doors because those jobs have gone away. And you start to look at the numbers, and it's staggering. It's estimated that 85% of all the jobs that we'll be doing in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. That's crazy to think about. But the good news is, right, 2030 is that's like 11 years from now, right? It will be here before you know it, and the impact is significant. In the United States, it's estimated that means that we'll have about 166 million people who are going to have to get new jobs and are going to have to get retrained. Right? 11 years will be here before you know it, and dramatic change can happen very quickly. How many of you have an iPhone? Anybody have an iPhone? Okay, a few iPhone folks. How many of you had an iPhone 11 years ago? Not one of us, because it hadn't been released yet. The most popular phone, the Motorola Razr, right? The original flip phone. That's what we all had 11 years ago. That's how quickly things can change. But the good news is this. When you look at jobs that are changing, one of the things that's constantly with us is a concept known as creative disruption. So yes, jobs are going to go away, but new jobs always get created, right? No one here is really worried today about whether or not their job as a telephone switch operator went away, because we have new jobs as app developers. Right? This is what's happening in our workforce. When you look at it, one of the things that's constant is the number of jobs continue to grow and grow and grow. You can see that technology, as it's changed through time, has done nothing to eliminate jobs. The number of jobs just keeps going up and up. What is changing is where those jobs are, right? There used to be a time in the 1900s, about 100 years ago, when 40% of the US population worked in agriculture. Today it's less than 2%, right? The majority of our jobs are in services. Even manufacturing has been taking a huge hit across the country. Right? The problem is not that jobs are going away. The problem is when your job goes away, right? When it's everyone else's problem, you're like, oh, that must really be terrible for them. When it's your job, you're like, oh crap, what do we do now? Right? There's different people's reactions, right? One of the most famous of them were the Luddites in the United Kingdom around the 1900s. These were much of the teamsters where they would make all sorts of textiles and all sorts of different things. Amazing work. But then one day, a factory opened in town that had automatic looms. And they could do the work of 20 of the textile workers. Right? That meant that 19 out of every 20 were going to be laid off and without work. So their response was not about learning a new skill. They instead snuck in the middle of the night and smashed all of the looms with hammers. They destroyed all the technology. Did that save their jobs? No. Right? The reality is we can try and smash the looms of technology, but technology is like toothpaste. You can't get it back into the tube, right? What we have to do is figure out how we can grow, evolve, and make sense of the coming changes. Well, let me give you an example of a company that maybe wasn't quite as successful in that. It's an American icon. Since the early 1890s, maybe you've heard of a little company. Its name is Kodak. Kodak was an amazing company. One of the original Fortune 500. Kodak was truly an American icon. Right? How many of you had a Kodak camera growing up? Almost all of us, right? Kodak in 1975 had an 85% market share of every camera sold in America. Almost every single camera in America was a Kodak. It was truly amazing. But what you may not know about their business model is that while they sold 85% of all the cameras in the United States, they made virtually no money selling cameras. Kodak's business model was all around selling film. And the more cameras they had, the more people would be taking pictures. Here's the great part. While they had an 85% market share of cameras, they had a 90% market share of film. They made money hand over fist selling film and film and film and film. So, 1975 is a great year for them. 1975 is also the year that an intrepid engineer wandered into the CEO's headquarters, into his office, and presented him with this. He described it as the first filmless camera. That's right. I don't know if you can see over here. There's a little tape cassette, because remember in the 1970s we didn't even have disk drives, right? Everything got stored on this tape cassette, and images could be taken digitally. It was going to revolutionize everything. What do you suppose the CEO of Kodak's response was to a filmless camera? Make it go away. Here's the amazing thing. In 1975, Kodak had the opportunity to patent digital photography and chose instead to make it go away. So what happens to Kodak as a result of that? Well, for those of you who like graphs, here's a quick chart. The red line is stock price. In 2012, they declared bankruptcy. But it didn't have to be that way. So Kodak is an American firm, but there's a firm in Japan called Fuji. Fujifilm was very similar. They had about the same metrics and made all their money on film. The difference was, in the early 2000s, Fuji realized film was going away. And they decided they needed to evolve and diversify. And since they were in the business of duplicating things, right, they decided they would purchase Xerox. and change their idea from being simply about taking pictures to instead be about duplicating things, regardless of whether or not that was on film, on paper. What happens is in 2002, after they purchase Xerox, they go through the same ups and downs as Kodak. The difference is now they have diversified. They have evolved. And as a result, if you want to go buy film today for your camera, you still can. But you can only buy Fujifilm because Kodak is no longer here. As we talk about a region, where we want to be, right? Mayor Suthers talked about how great things are right now. We've got an amazing economy. But we have to adapt to that change. Do we want El Paso County, do we want Teller County, do we want the Springs to be the next Kodak or the next Fuji? I don't know about you, but I prefer us to be Fuji. So let's talk about what we can do to evolve and to figure out how we can become that next space. To do that, we have to go a little bit back in time. We need to go see how technology has impacted us over this era. So basically, I'm going to try and summarize this as quickly as possible. Technology continues to evolve and it gets faster. There's a little thing called Moore's Law. Moore's Law is a theory, a philosophy that says this: every 18 months, the power of computing doubles. It just keeps getting faster and faster every 18 months. And this has been true since the early microprocessors in the 1900s. What's amazing is that every time we get the newest and latest technology, everyone's like, oh my God, this is it. We'll never be able to get any faster. Do you remember when the Pentium chip came out? Everyone's like, this is the fastest. It will never get any faster than this. We are done for. 18 months later, the Pentium 2 comes out, twice as fast. 12 months later, the Pentium 3 comes out. And 6 months later, the Pentium 4 comes out. Every time, it just keeps getting faster, 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 and faster. And it also gets smaller. This is compliments of the University of Michigan from about a month ago. Any idea what that big white thing is in this picture? It's a grain of rice. I don't know if you can see this. This right here is the world's smallest computer chip. Smaller than a grain of rice. In addition to being small and fast, it also gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. All right? Those of you who have an iPad, the iPad 2, right, you know, it's not a cheap piece of equipment, but I'll tell you this. If you wanted to get the computing power of an iPad 2 in the 1960s, it would have cost you $10 billion. And probably taken up a room the entire size of this hotel, right? Technology continues to evolve. It gets faster, it gets cheaper, and as a result, it impacts us differently. I would look at 3 primary times in American history where technology has impacted us in modern times. The first is the 1940s. Around 1940 or so, post-World War II, we brought in more automation into our factories. This fundamentally changed the relationship between labor and output as it relates to factories. The 1970s were another time of change. The 1970s saw the introduction of computers into the workplace. As a Gen Xer myself, one of the hilarious parts, I've never been in an office without a computer. So to me, watching movies like Hidden Figures is mind-blowing. I cannot believe we sent people into space using a slide rule, right? I mean, this is, no wonder people were scared to get in these rockets, right? My goodness, it's crazy to think about. But what it allowed us to do was take the microprocessing power of the computer and allowed low-skilled people to do high-skilled tasks because the computer could do that work for us. The next change happened in the 2000s. The 2000s saw the internet arrive, right? The internet allowed us to do anything, anywhere. The bad news is we now do everything, everywhere, right? The sad state of this affairs, what do most of us do very first thing when we wake up in the morning? We're checking our email, right? Like something awful happened while we were sleeping, we need to know now, right? But it also allows us to work remotely anywhere. An office is no longer the only place that we can work. So the reason I bring these 3 things up is the 1940, 1970, and 2000 are each what economists call a decoupling moment. A decoupling is when you take 2 factors that have always been linked together, and then because as a result of technology, they split, and they're no longer linked. In the 1940s, right, we talked about manufacturing. 1940s decoupling saw manufacturing be separated from labor. It used to be that if you wanted to produce more output, you had to hire more people. With automation in our factories, this mass production allowed us instead to produce more and more goods with fewer and fewer workers. In fact, you may not know this by listening to the news today, but the United States is producing more manufactured goods today than at any time ever in the history of our country. We're just doing it with fewer and fewer workers. That was a major shift. The 1970s and the introduction of the computers, again, saw the shift where we had non-skilled people able to do skilled labor. As a result, we didn't have to pay them as much. And what we've seen since the 1970s is productivity in the white-collar workplace goes up and up and up, but pay has remained relatively flat because we don't have to pay people as much to do really complicated tasks. The 2000s and the introduction of the internet allowed us to, again, work anywhere, anytime. So what we've seen is a decoupling between productivity and hours worked. Why? Because economists measure hours worked as 40 hours. Nobody here works only 40 hours, right? You're working, you're on email all the time, right? We're always working in different things. As a result, productivity has gone up, but since 2000, the hours worked have remained flat. 1940, 1970, 2000. Each one of these decouplings happens about every 30 years. That means if the last decoupling was in 2000, the next one's in 2030. What's it going to be? Well, that's an interesting question, and that's what we have to prepare for. So what is it that's going to happen in 2030 that's going to fundamentally change the workplace? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's really not one thing, it's two things. It's a combination of automation and artificial intelligence. Automation is the first of these. One of the things you'll notice is we've got robots. We've got robots everywhere. Now, a lot of you are like, yeah, we got robots in factories. The number one place where we see the most growth in robots? Our homes. How many of you have a smart speaker, one of those Alexas or Echo Dots, or, right, some of you, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Hey, Alexa, play my favorite station, or whatever. Those are robots. And also for those of you who have them, just remember this. They are recording everything you say. All right, this summer, there was the case where the Alexa sent 3 emails to this guy's business colleague with the transcript of everything that family has said that day. Just keep that in mind. That's all. That's all. All right. It's estimated that we're going to see about a 15% increase in robots year over year every year. Now, the problem with those numbers and those projections is they're already wrong. We're seeing almost twice that rate of adoption. We see the number of robots worldwide going to over 111% growth over the last 10 years, right? It just keeps getting faster and faster and more and cheaper to produce robots. At the same time, as we start to get automation in lots of places, we see this combination with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a real interesting place right now. There's a lot of growth in there. Let's take this back to Moore's Law, though. Right? If you look at Moore's Law, right, where computing power doubles every 18 months, what you'll see is eventually we get to a point where we get faster and faster, and we get eventually to a point where computers can process as quickly as an insect brain, a mouse brain. Well, let's extrapolate Moore's Law out to 2030. Where does that put us? Oh, at exactly the point where computers are thinking at the speed of a human brain. So we'll have robots everywhere, and they'll be as smart as we are. Now you know why 2030 is going to be a problem. Here's where we are with artificial intelligence. Right? Last year, Google was doing an experiment with their chatbots. And they shut the experiment down with AI because what they found is the 2 chatbots had created their own language and were communicating with each other. That was last year. Right? There's an organization in Boston called Boston Dynamics, and they are at the forefront of automation and AI. They build robots that are kind of these prototypes to see what happens. They wanted to test how smart robots were, so they locked 2 robots in a room together and to see what they could do. Here's what happens. Looks like we're stuck in the room. Oh, hello, friend. It's my favorite part where he kicks his leg out to hold the door open. And now they walk out. Again, this is 2018. We got 12 more years. This is going to be a major shift. So what's going to happen? What does it mean for us? Well, I really look at 3 different things that I believe are going to be happening in 2030 and 3 things that we can do to prepare for that coming reality. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're like, oh my God, The Terminator was a documentary. I had no idea. No, it is not, okay? You will not, this is not what I predict happening by the year 2030. Instead, the 3 things that I do see happening. Number 1, there's going to be elimination of jobs. Quite a few jobs. There's also going to be this idea of work itself changing. And then finally, we're going to see more and more business consolidation throughout the country. So let's start talking a little bit about the elimination of jobs. And let me point this out in a little quick econ lesson. This is just kind of simple supply-demand curve, right? What we see here is the blue line. The blue line is the cost of a human being doing a job. In this case, it starts at $8 an hour and gets 5% more expensive every year. Just kind of standard labor increase. The orange line is the cost of a robot doing the job. It's very expensive early on. In this case, it costs $40 an hour for a robot to do a job, but it gets 10% cheaper per year. Eventually, what you'll notice is that it hits equilibrium. In this example, 2020 is the year that it hits equilibrium. But the reality is this, we all know this, we'd prefer working with human beings than with robots. So we don't automatically change. Behavioral economists tell us that it typically takes about a 10 to 15% price premium for us to replace robots. The bad news is that by 2022, as much as I love you and I think you're an awesome person, you're gone, okay? Now, the reason I point this out is because sometimes, and I'm not here to talk about public policy, I'm here to talk about unintended consequences. Some things happen that may change this graph. Like, let's say, for instance, I don't know, in 2017, we had an increase of a minimum wage to $15. Let's just throw that out there. What happens? Well, it bumps up that blue line. And ends up happening is that we hit equilibrium in 2019, and we hit our premium in 2020. So yes, people get paid more, but all it does is accelerate by 2 years the replacement of their jobs. I'll give you an example. In Ontario, the province in Canada, they increased their minimum wage to $15 Canadian per hour. Within the first year, the largest McDonald's franchise in the entire province announced that it would be firing every single cashier and replacing them with a touchscreen kiosk. That's what happens. And we see the results of that pretty dramatically. When you look at the jobs that are most likely to be eliminated, most of them are low-skilled jobs, but not all of those jobs are low-skilled jobs. Any job that's repetitive starts to become easily replaced. All right, when you look at what futurists estimate are the most likely jobs to go away, here's the good news. The number 1 job most likely to be eliminated? Telemarketers! Yes! Now don't worry though, before you get too excited, Councilman, you'll still be getting phone calls, okay? They'll just be from really smart robots who don't mind hearing no, okay? That's the only difference, all right? What's interesting on this list though is number 2, accountants and auditors. You're thinking, wow, what? Those aren't low-skilled jobs. No, but they're repetitive. They're analyzing data, they're collecting information and producing a result. Soon, automation and AI will take over those jobs. The number 3 job on here, though, is the one that I'm most scared about because I believe it's truly the canary in the coal mine, and that's retail workers. Retail workers are really, for us, one of the things that I see as a leading indicator of what technology can do. Now, if you look at retail across America, you'd say retail is amazing. It's never done better. And that's true. You look at stocks, whether it's Walmart or Target, right? Their sales are through the roof. But the reality is this. What's driving sales is not in-store sales. You look at that blue line, that's the bricks and mortar sales of retail. You notice it's on a slow and steady decline. The reason why retail profits keep going up and up and up is because of online sales. In fact, if you look at Walmart and Target, basically all those stores are going to become is locations for you to pick up the stuff you ordered online. All right, when you look at retail in bricks and mortar, it just keeps going down and down and down. Now, that's interesting, but what does that mean for us? Well, when you look at it, we're beginning what we oftentimes refer to as the retail apocalypse. We're starting to see more and more stores go out of business. This is in 2017 where Radio Shack led the way. 2018 saw not only the loss of Toys R Us, but Sears. Just this morning, they're attempting to pull Sears out of bankruptcy and to keep the stores open. But they're really just on life support. What we're seeing for the first time is that more retail stores are going out of business than are opening. And this is going to be significant. It's going to have a huge impact on our communities in terms of real estate, but also in terms of employment. When you look at employment across the United States, here's the scariest map. 45 of the 50 US states, the #1 most popular job, retail. Here in Colorado, that's 440,000 jobs. In El Paso County alone, it's 35,000 people who will be without work and with no measurable skills that they can transfer to a new job. Right, we heard Tracy this morning talk about how they served almost 15,000 people getting new jobs. It would take 3 years for the great work that they're doing here at Pikes Peak Workforce Center to hire that many people and get them retrained for jobs. We've got to start doing something now. And it's going to be a challenge because the nature of what work is also going to be changing. Because creative disruption is what I think is going to go away and get decoupled in 2030. I think for the first time, more jobs will be eliminated than created. And we have to get ready for that. We also have to get ready for the changing nature of work because we're looking in the US here at 75 million people being displaced and out of work with no new jobs. The jobs that you're going to find are going to be different as well. The growth of this gig economy is going to fundamentally shift the way we start to workplaces. Why? Because what will happen more and more is we'll find that our jobs are not with one employer, but are with multiple employers. When you look at alternative work relations since 2000, what you've seen is it's more than doubled. When you look at the jobs from the Great Recession, as we've come back, more and more of them are part-time and temporary than they are full-time jobs. We see the growth in the gig economy. If it were its own sector, the gig economy would be the 3rd largest employer across the United States. There's been a 47-fold increase. We're going to find that more and more people are freelancing, e-lancing, doing the thing they want to, and not working for one company anymore. Many of you may be in that space already today. The challenge with that is, yes, it gives you more freedom, gives you flexibility, but then who takes care of the typical employer relations? What if you're out sick? Do you get vacation? Who pays for 401k? Who does job training? These questions are going to have to be answered as we evolve into this new workplace. And the reason why that fewer and fewer people are going to be working is because there's going to be fewer and fewer places to work. Now, I don't mean that there'll actually be fewer places to work. I mean they'll be controlled by fewer and fewer companies. Because business consolidation is going to continue to happen. 2018 saw the most number of mergers and acquisitions that we'd seen in over 2 decades. More and more companies are coming together. And this is no surprise. When you look at media today, if you were watching your cable channels this morning and you're flipping through, you would say that there are more choices than you know what to do with. But the reality is this, of all the media that's out there, 90% of it is controlled by 6 companies. In the 1980s, that same 90% was controlled by 50 companies. If you go to the grocery store, you'd say that we have more products than we know what to do with, but the reality is all the brands that are out there are basically controlled by one of 10 global mega brands, right? Kraft, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, General Mills, Kellogg's, Mars, Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and Nestle control virtually every consumer brand. They all have different names, but they're all basically the same 10 companies. We see the same thing as Amazon purchases up Walmart. Purchases up Whole Foods. And we see more and more of this starts to happen. My prediction is that really as we get into the future, it's not going to be about brands, it's going to be about distribution and who has the best distribution networks. And as a result, I think at the end of the day, from a retail perspective, from a consumer perspective, there's basically going to only be 3 worldwide brands. It's going to be Walmart, it's going to be Amazon, or it's going to be Alibaba. Now, they'll all have different names, right? So you'll think you have all these choices, but the reality is everything will basically be controlled by one of those 3 companies. So, tons of people out of work, 75 million. Most of us won't have real jobs anymore, and we won't have anywhere to work. Welcome to 2030. It's exciting, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I'm doing all this research, I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, we can sit here and we get angry and we can get upset. or we can channel our inner Boy Scout and we can get prepared. And so I want to help us get prepared and give you three strategies that we can do today. There's an ancient African proverb I love. It says this: the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. We may not be able to go 20 years back and retrain people, but let's start today and figure out what we can do to get prepared. So, the number one thing I think we need to do is to stop repeating repetitive reiterations. Okay? Bottom line is this: if there are parts of your job where you do the same thing every day or you have all these patterns, that part of your job will be going away. If your job requires you to do the same things over and over again, that job will be going away. So what we need to do is figure out a way to diversify and move away from that. When you look at the growth in jobs, you see that non-routine jobs, both manual and cognitive, have seen growth. Routine jobs are already starting to slow down. Find things that you do that add value. Focus on developing those skills. When you are an employer, figure out what jobs in your company do different things, because those are the jobs that you'll still want to have and still need people to add value to your organization. The jobs that have the most improvement in those areas: healthcare. We see a lot of non-routine tasks in healthcare. Construction, on the other hand, while some construction trades will still be around, electricians, for instance, you'll find things like masons and bricklayers increasingly getting replaced by robots. Manufacturing is the area that is the biggest challenge and most likely to be automated. So, what's the next thing? We've got to develop high-touch skills. We need to really emphasize what the humanness is, and for us to develop those. Because here's the deal. Technology will be bad in some ways, it'll be great in some other ways. In Colorado, one of the biggest challenges we have is with rural healthcare. We can't get doctors to go into our smaller communities. The great news is this: already with IBM's Watson, we can have doctors analyze patients remotely and do better diagnosis than oftentimes any human ever could. Here's the bad news. If you've got a cancer diagnosis, you really don't want this to be the conversation you're having, right? You want to have a human being there to talk to you. And that's really a critical piece, right? When you look at the skills that will be most in demand and hardest to find in the future, what futurists tell us is these are the two most important ones. These are the ones you should be focusing on, your children should be focusing on, your grandchildren should be focusing on. Critical thinking and problem solving. Those will be the most in demand, hardest to find skills. Other skills that'll be essential but relatively easy to hire: communication, teamwork, organization, and ability to work with diverse people. Those are all skills we should be working on. Here's what's funny. You want to talk about the skills that are less essential? STEM. Tech skills. That's interesting. Why? Because what we'll find is that more and more the computers will actually be programming themselves with machine learning. They'll be developing their own pieces, and so skills are actually going to become less and less valuable. Not to rain on anyone's STEM parade, because I know it's an important piece, but the reality is this: if you look at America today, we're producing as many STEM graduates as we need in every single field except programming. You're already starting to see that, right? One of the hardest to find jobs here in the Springs is doing cyber. Right? These tech jobs are the ones that are difficult to fill, not in engineering and math, but in programming and computer design. Proficiency with new technology, virtually unimportant in the new era. We know this to be true. Jobs with social skills will continue to grow. And already today, the reality is this: we know that most people are successful because of those people skills. Right? I say this a lot, but how many of you have ever worked with somebody who is terrible at their job? Anybody? Right? Some of us have, but some of you are pointing at other people at your table. That's just rude, okay? But here's the reality of the workplace today. If you've got someone who is bad at their job and shows up to work every day, everybody loves them at work, and they're willing to pitch in and help on a group project, how long can that terrible employee keep their job? Forever, right? They plan the Christmas party. We're talking employee of the month material, right? That's where we are. If we want to be successful today, we know people skills are what's going to take us. If we want to be successful in the future, we've got to ramp that up and focus not just on people skills, but also then on these other cognitive skills around problem solving and creative thinking. The final thing that we're going to need to do is this. We're going to have to focus not just on degrees, but really on skills. Because skills are going to define success in the future, and frankly, they already are today. The irony is, we all know skills are important inherently, but that's not what we look for. When we hire people, we're looking for degrees, we're looking for rank, we're looking for all these kinds of things. But you want to see the best predictor of success. It's when you match an applicant's skills to the skills of the job. What's the least predictive indicator? Education and achievement. Grades and degrees. We know that skills are going to be more important in the future. And it's going to be critically important because what employers are telling us is that more and more they don't value degrees. They don't see them as the best indicator of success. We've got to find people in different positions. We're going to have to get into that talent pool and look for qualifications that we hadn't seen before. And we have to find ways for people to develop their skills, even if it's not in a traditional educational environment. Now, there'll still be a role for schools, and that's still an important piece, but it's not an either or. It's an and. And we're already starting to see here in Colorado, the Department of Higher Education, looking at how we can use and measure skill gain in addition to degrees. We'll see that happening as we move forward. It's a perfect example. This is a CNC machine. For those of you who are in manufacturing, you'll know. This machine right here, very difficult to use. This was actually in a factory in Kentucky. They were trying to find somebody to operate this machine because the guy who'd been there had retired. And the challenge with it is this. They needed somebody with 5 years experience, at least an AA degree, and a NIMS certification, which is an industry certificate. And they couldn't find anybody. Because in this small Kentucky town, there were 3 different factories that had this machine. And the only way you got somebody to operate it was when you poached somebody from one of the other companies. And no one was moving. The machine sat idle for a year. So the company hired an HR consultant to try and find somebody somewhere to fill this job. And the consultant said this: I know you say they need 5 years of experience, an AA degree, and a NIMS certification, but what if we just looked at the skills necessary? Would you hire somebody if they just had those skills? They said sure. So they went and found the machine, and what they found is they needed somebody with really good fine motor skills, somebody with attention to detail, but someone who could switch tasks frequently. So they said, if they hired somebody with those 3 skills, would you hire them? And they said yes. So they went out into town to try and find somebody with those 3 skills, and they found somebody. And they hired themselves a sushi chef who had fine motor skills, attention to detail, and the ability to switch tasks frequently. That sushi chef is now the lead trainer on that CNC machine. He operates it better than anyone else. He's never had his NIMS certification, he never had an AA degree, and he had never seen the equipment before he started work. The reality is that skills, not always experience and degrees, set people up for success. Here in Colorado, again, I love being here because I get to brag about some of the companies and organizations. There's a place called Skillful. Skillful started here as a merger between, it's a nonprofit between the Merkle Foundation and LinkedIn, really focusing on helping employers become more skills-based in hiring and training. Now they've expanded and they're also in Indiana now, and they have presence in about 28 other states. But Skillful is helping us to revolutionize how we think of jobs. So it's not just your typical report, it's about skills and what skills are necessary. If you haven't already, look into them, because it's a great way for us to start to transition as employers to skills-based hiring. When you look overall, right, the future can be scary. 2030 will be here before you know it. It's going to revolutionize a lot of different elements. But if we want to prepare for the revolution, we need to do this. Stop repeating repetitive reiterations. Right? Stop doing the same things over and over again. Focus on our people skills, because the more high-tech we become, the more we crave high-touch. And focus not just on degrees and experience, but see how you can evolve your organization to focusing on skills as well. Because those 3 things will help us prepare for the coming 2030 revolution. I don't know about you. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited to see what happens. But I'm also really scared. But if we get prepared, we can all work together and continue to see that Colorado Springs becomes the economic engine we know it is today, and we know it can be as we move into the future. Thank you for your work. Tracy, thank you for what you're doing to help train our future workforce, and let's all realize that this is something we have to do together.
Thank you, Josh, for your insights into the future of workforce. I'm Becca Ton, Communications Manager for the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. Locally, we need to focus on attracting, retaining, and growing our talent. We know that. We also need to look at the skills needed and how to transfer those skills into future jobs. An organization that does this well is the military. They don't promote based on the degree someone has, but on the skills they have learned, just like Josh talked about. They know how to transfer one's skills to another assignment, whether locally, nationally, or worldwide. To fill our talent pipeline, we must look at the military community and military spouses as an integral part of our workforce. The Pikes Peak region is proud to host over 90,000 veterans and active duty military and their families. 25% of our clients represent the veteran, spouse, active duty, National Guard, and reservist community. Veterans and spouses represent a hidden talent pipeline for businesses. Pikes Peak Workforce Center works with transition offices on military installations to assist those who are leaving the service. We convene the Military Veterans and Spouse Coalition, and we host the Military Veterans and Spouse Employment Expo each May. And we are proud to partner with Prep Connect 360. We collaborate with community partners such as Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center, Peak Military Care Network, and Pikes Peak Community College. We host disabled veterans outreach specialists and veteran regional employer specialists to help those veterans with significant barriers to employment find stability and a sustainable wage. Let us help you connect with this valuable and often hidden talent pipeline. The Pikes Peak region is the proud home of 90,000 veterans and active duty service members who serve at 4 military installations as well as NORAD and NORTHCOM.
We partner with all the transitioning offices on all the installations here in the Colorado Springs, El Paso County area.
It was great to be able to work through the morning, come over here, take a break, talk to employers, and then be able to go back to work and finish my duties.
These employers actually have open positions and are actively hiring, and we have hundreds of transitioning military and veterans and spouses who are here today. They get to meet in person with these employers. Some of them will be hired on the spot, some will be called back for further interviews, and so it's just this incredible opportunity for our military community.
They bring over their experience, their discipline, their work ethic over into the civilian side of life, and they lead by example.
We have a very, very strong vet-based team here locally, and we have found that they have been our most successful employees. We love them.
A lot of veterans get interviewed the day of the job fairs. There's places that are set aside specifically for employers and job seekers to talk and have a conversation and be interviewed. And we've actually had soldiers leave this job fair with jobs. So it's a great opportunity to connect with employers, both locally and nationally. With the veterans, we have a huge, and transition military, we have a huge population here, and we want them to stay here when they leave. That not only helps them, their families being consistent with where they live and where they maybe go to school, but also helps grow our economic development, is having more dollars into the community. It's a great resource and talent pipeline for our employers. It's a great way for employers to come and figure out the resources and the training they have in the military and transition that to civilian jobs.
We have apprenticeship programs. We have several different training programs, whether you wanted to be on the technician side or the administrative side. We have training programs for both.
I walked around a little bit and talked to employers I didn't think I would talk to, and that was definitely a good thing. I mean, I talked to 3 different employers who had opportunities that I didn't realize, and I'm going to be able to follow up on those, and it was just because everyone was here in one location.
Mentoring is a key element in our young adult program. When we as a community look at where we find people to fill our open positions, we must look at young adults. Pikes Peak Workforce Center works with young adults ages 16 to 24 who have significant barriers to employment. What does that mean? They are homeless, high school dropouts, teenage parents, those who can't find their way or weren't given the chance. Let's be honest, school isn't for everyone. Pikes Peak Workforce Center is a place to go for young adults who need help. Granted, many may not know they need help,
So we work with Urban Peak, with Springs Rescue Mission, Roy J. Wasson Campus, the Dale House, and many others to help young adults find their meaning. It's different for each of them. But we teach them confidence, we teach them budgeting, what it means to have a first job and show up on time with a great attitude. We may put them through training to be a CNA, or we may train them to have them receive Network Plus training, or perhaps pay for them to get their driver's license so they can go to work. Most importantly, we believe in them. We meet them where they are, not where we think they should be. We'd like to share a video of several of our young adults, customers, after they attended our 2.5-day work readiness class. Notice the difference in their mannerisms, appearance, and so much more once they realized we believe in them.
My name is Mark Hill, and the longest job I've had, I guess, is about 3 to 4 months at Waffle House as a cook. And my 1-year goal is, I guess, honestly, to be just a better person. I want to thank everybody here, you know, especially the staff for, you know, the words of encouragement, the energy that they gave off. It was absolutely phenomenal. Secondly, I want to thank my classmates, you know, for helping me do what I need to do, just as far as, you know, keep going, ask the right questions, and just see things in a different light.
My longest held job is actually the one I have now at Taco Bell. It's almost a year now, and I work with customer service. One word to describe me is active. I like going out and going on hikes and stuff. And my 1-year goal is to save up some money, hopefully go and get myself like an apartment somewhere and get out of my parents' house.
Mostly learning about ambition for me was you know, striving to be great, going into work and thinking, you know, I do this every day, but today I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And to prove to your bosses that, you know, you can be better than everybody else and that you deserve a spot on top. And you gotta keep pushing towards that, and through that you also have to have, you know, good attendance, and you have to accept everything that's thrown at you, and you have to appreciate everything that you get too. And that's just kind of a little bit of everything that I got to know here, and I appreciate you guys for helping me out, and I thank you a lot.
My name is Antoine. My word is intriguing, and my longest, or I think I skipped it, I don't know. But my longest held job is 1 year at Taco Bell, and my 1-year goal is to have everything planned out and everything. Ambition, and you know, basically learn, you know, always strive for what you want to succeed in, and appreciate those who have given you the opportunity to, you know, come into the workplace and help make the company better.
I'm Brandon. My longest held position would be 1.5 years at a movie theater, and my 1-year goal would be to have like a full-time position in the trade.
When we first got here, we all set like a 1-year goal, and my goal was just that like a year from now, I want to have a steady full-time job in the trades, and I learned a lot of things here that'll help me do that. Like, first of all, dressing nice. This is the first time I've ever like owned any real formal clothes, you know, that's exciting. I learned the learn technique for like helping customers and whatnot. I learned that for sure when appreciating your job, it's important to treat the company as if it was your own, to help give it a proper reputation.
Some of you may have heard the terms offender, ex-offender, or parolees. The correct term is a justice-involved citizen. People make bad choices and deserve another chance. Pikes Peak Workforce Center's dedication to make those who made bad choices succeed and make a sustainable wage is crucial in fulfilling our open positions. The federal dollars and Department of Correction dollars we receive to assist them has not only made an impact on their lives, but on businesses and the economic development in our community too. Justice involves citizens who have used the Workforce Center's funding and job coach program have a 37% less chance of being reincarcerated. We take pride in what we do and helping the residents of El Paso and Teller counties. Everyone needs someone who has faith in them. Everyone needs a mentor who can help them change their lives for the better.
This is a true story. I was laying in my bed after work from the Goodwill. I was there like 11 months, just laying there telling myself, thinking that, man, I know I can do better. I need something better. This is crazy. The lady from the Workforce Center called, and I answered the phone. Hello. She said there's a employer, a company that is looking to hire, and it was the next day I was in an interview, signing my W-2s and everything else, and I've been working there ever since.
My most recent hire was a young Marine who was a recovering heroin and meth addict who spent every night last year on the streets of Colorado Springs, except for the few nights he spent in jail.
The overall problem of homelessness usually has so many different factors: need for mental health support, need for medical support, need for employment, need for housing. Those are 4 really huge problems that the average individual has a hard time problem solving through. And so try to do that when you couldn't sleep last night because you were freezing outside and you haven't had your anxiety medication for months. You know, those are kinds of things that I don't think anybody would choose that life.
When I got out of prison, I didn't have anything. I had an ID. That was it. And I did get a minimum wage job. I mean, at first it was good, and when you do work in prison, it's for 72 cents a day. So $9.30 an hour sounded great, but then when you get out in the real world, $9.30 is not that great.
The Road to Work program helped me when I didn't have enough money for food. They gave me a voucher. When I didn't have a job, they helped me out with bus passes to go find one. When I didn't have interview clothes, they gave me a voucher to get interview clothes.
They offered to pay my rent and, you know, clothing and stuff like that, and pay, you know, $3,500 for my CDL. I saw this cycle when people get out of prison that when they work minimum wage jobs, they're barely making it, they're struggling. I saw many people, you know, go back to prison, you know, 3 weeks after they get out of prison.
The kids need the parents. The parents have to be stable. Households can only be stable if they have money.
I've changed since the minimum wage job compared to the job I have now is, you know, instead of making $9.30 an hour, I'm making $20 an hour. Full benefits, 401k, everything. I can afford to bring my daughter down from California because that's where her and her mother live. I can afford to pay child support.
I have been transformed by seeing other lives changed. To see these guys regain their self-esteem and to be productive members of society again has forever changed me just in the short time that we've been doing this.
I would really love for more employers to consider getting involved. I think the risk to the employer is minimal. It just takes a little bit of time. But I think that if more employers could get involved, not only would it increase the number of jobs that are available, it would increase the types of opportunities that are available to these individuals.
Have you ever had a concussion or a broken bone or a sprained ankle? Have you ever had a migraine so bad that you could not function? If so, you know what it's like to have a temporary disability. We as adults are often associated with our jobs, what we do, who we work for. Employment is our identity. People with disabilities have an unemployment rate of 57.2%. Imagine not being able to find a job because of a disability. We at the Pikes Peak Workforce Center choose to look at this talent pipeline as those with different abilities. In 2018, we were awarded a Disability Employment Initiative grant that allowed us the opportunity to focus on programmatic changes in our community, to start looking at people with different abilities as an opportunity to fulfill our talent pipeline. In 2018, we established an Abilities Coalition, a group of passionate people, and many of you are in this room today, to focus on connecting, convening, and collecting the resources in our community to create career pathways for people with different abilities.
The Abilities Coalition is made up of 35 passionate community partners and employers who are coming together to enhance and create career pathways for persons with disabilities. We're not talking about a job, we're talking about a career.
The Abilities Coalition really helps integrate the community, so when job seekers are out there looking for jobs, they not only just have one individual agency in the community to help support them, they now have an entire community to really work together to go and gather those resources and information and really help support them.
Along with those 35 community partners and employers, key stakeholders such as the Independence Center, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, Department of Human Services, we have all been coming together and working hard on in-depth resource mapping to make sure that our case managers across the community are delivering wraparound services for those with disabilities.
We are using this grant funding to create a holistic wraparound service model by developing strategic partnerships within our local community. I'm excited about the Disability Employment Initiative grant because we're creating meaningful and lasting change within our local community.
Through this grant, the Disability Employment Initiative, we are working towards a future that is inclusive of every job seeker.
Today, we chose to tell the 2018 story of the Pikes Peak Workforce Center through the eyes of those we serve, and to share with you, our community, different ways to look at finding talent businesses need and different resources available to all types of job seekers. The Workforce Center is here to connect, convene, and collaborate. I am honored now to ask El Paso County Commissioner Stan Vanderwerf, Pikes Peak Workforce Consortium Chair, to join me on stage. He will say a few words and we'll hand out 4 awards with the assistance from the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce CEO, Debbie Miller, and Lynette Crow-Iverson of the Pikes Peak Workforce Center Development Board.
Thank you very much. I tell you, it's my honor today to be up here to talk to this group. By the way, there's 400 of you in the audience. If that isn't a testament to the understanding of the value of our workforce and the need to connect people who need a job with the employers who are looking so desperately for people to be in their companies because they need those folks. And I just want to say a few things real quick. First of all, Josh, I don't know whether to be terrified or excited about that presentation. But here is something that I know, and I know it is true. We have an exceptionally talented Pikes Peak Workforce Center. I am convinced that we are ready. This community is ready for the changes that are coming, and they're going to be challenges, right? But we're going to be able to pull that off. We're going to be able to deliver that kind of change so that this community can remain vibrant and healthy over time. And you know, with the members of the Workforce Development Board and then my colleagues on the Consortium Executive Board, this includes Mark Dettenreiter from Teller County, who's the Vice Chair, and Lejinos Gonzalez, who's the Secretary. The 3 of us are working together with the Pikes Peak Workforce Center to help deliver the kinds of things that our community needs with the changes that are obviously going to be taking place. And just very briefly, there are some things we talked about this morning, and I think you should take note about those. This Workforce Center has done job fairs for vets, for youth, for the justice involved. They've done disability job fairs. They've placed, what was last year, 14,000 people into jobs. They have the biggest job fairs. Some of the job fairs they do are the largest in the entire state. This is a really talented team we have in this Workforce Center, and they're going to continue to deliver for this community. I am convinced of that. I also want to make one last mention, and it's a pilot program that is going to be conducted. Actually, it's starting this month between the Department of Human Services and the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. And this is a pilot program for people who are on public assistance to help them get reintegrated into the society through a combination of counseling for soft skills, and we heard about the importance of soft skills this morning, and the combination and working simultaneously alongside with that, obtaining a hard job skill so that these people can be placed into our community, help our businesses, but also become self-sufficient. This is really, really important, and I'm very, very proud of this community that's working so hard and working for so many different kinds of people, and it's a diverse activity of trying to get people into the workforce so that they can be self-sufficient. It's very, very important. So I'm going to end my comments on that. I just want to personally thank the workforce team, but it is time now to offer some awards. And the first one that I have the honor of offering here is Employee of the Year. So the Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board's Employee of the Year recognizes an employee who consistently performed over and above the responsibilities of their job and exhibited outstanding customer service and met performance and career-related goals. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating our Employee of the Year, Toya Graham. Come on up. And while she's walking up here, the staff at the Pikes Peak Workforce Center works here because they have a servant's heart, a true desire to help people and make a difference. Are you okay? All right. Oh, I'm missing out on this. I have to speak, and okay, I'm going to go back and hug her. There you go. All right. Now, Toya exhibits these traits on a daily basis. She's a positive role model to both her customers and her co-workers, and she has grown the job coach position from 1 position to 5. She is collaborative with community partners and business. In fact, that's part of her nature. And Toya exhibits excellent customer service to both internal and external customers. She is the consummate professional, and we are honored to have her on our team. Again, congratulations, Toya. All right, next up.
The Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board's Teller County Employer of the Year Award recognizes an employer who has used our services, has sustained our mission of connecting vital businesses with work-ready job seekers by supporting work-based learning and hiring and employment events throughout the year. Please join me in congratulating our Teller County Employer of the Year, Bronco Billy's. Bronco Billy's has a heart for serving the residents of Teller County and genuinely doing what it takes to help their employees. They participate in the Pikes Peak Workforce Center's work-based learning opportunities, young adult and adult job fairs, along with the Community's Abilities Forum. They have a great expansion plan, and we are so excited about that. And they strive to be a part of the economic development of Teller County. Congratulations again, Bronco Billy's.
Okay, we have 2 more awards, and this is now the 3rd one. This is for El Paso County Employer of the Year. The Pikes Peak Workforce Center Development Board's El Paso County Employee of the Year recognizes an outstanding employer who has used our services and has sustained our mission of connecting vital businesses with work-ready job seekers by supporting work-based learning and hiring employment events throughout the year. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating our El Paso County Employer of the Year winner, Conceal Fab. ConcealFab is a proud partner of the Workforce Center and many other community partners. They have mentored and trained customers in work-based learning opportunities that have led to careers and sustainable employment for many people in our community. They have provided employer-driven solutions for the training needs of today's workforce, and they also are one of the fastest-growing companies in our community. Thank you, ConcealFab, for the work you're doing with the Pikes Peak Workforce Center.
The Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board's Champion of Prosperity Award recognizes a business, individual, or partnership for substantial contribution to and support of the workforce development, workforce training and education programs, business expansion or retention in El Paso and Teller counties. Please join me in congratulating our Champion of Prosperity Award, Pikes Peak Community College IT Department, Mustafa Akodorwan, has been crucial in the growth of the Careers Boost IT students. Career Boost is a collaboration of D11 Adult and Family Education, Pikes Peak Workforce Center, and Pikes Peak Community College to help the hard-to-serve population find employment in the in-demand industries. Recently, he commented that he mostly concerned with a student's desire to learn and if they seem teachable. He values an individual's energy as he knows that they have the ability to learn, then he and his team can teach them. Again, congratulations to Pikes Peak Community College IT Department.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan, Debbie, and Lynette. Let's give another round of applause for all of our award winners. Last year, the Workforce Center's aggregated economic impact, which is new worker earnings spent on local goods, services, and contributing to the tax base, was $137.7 million. Let me repeat that. Our aggregated economic impact, $137.7 million. We are very humbled and honored to be able to serve our communities. You may be asking yourself, what can I do? How can I help the Workforce Center with their mission of connecting businesses and job seekers and training our future workforce, helping with soft skills development? I ask you, look outside your normal channels. Employers, revisit your job descriptions. Look at skills-based hiring as an opportunity that you have to develop your future pipeline. And get involved with grassroots efforts like our Workforce Action Team. While Pikes Peak Workforce Center does not have all the answers, we can help you connect, convene, and collaborate. thank you. On behalf of the Consortium Executive Board, the Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board, and the staff at the Pikes Peak Workforce Center, thank you for coming, and thank you for helping to spread our mission. This concludes today's event. Thank you.